You should be able to all see the recording symbol up there. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Polly.
Great. You want to get that doorbell, Jeff?
I got it. I'll get all the doorbells.
Awesome. So welcome back to the parents that have joined us in weeks past. If you're new to joining us, welcome. It's been a really nice opportunity for all of us to really come together and talk about how things are going and connect. And really express what we're seeing in your kids, as well as hear what you're grappling with at home. And we hope that this is also going to be, that forum going forward. You certainly can put your questions, specific questions. We had some great ones last week in the chat, and then, different people will try and field them. So please go ahead and type. Before we get started, though, wanted to just share that we've got Trudy Davis and Ann Allen from Lower Elementary on the call, as well as Jackie Jenkins and Nina Bassinet, along with Laura Moore, our middle school counselor, and Jeff DeTesso, upper school psychologist. So one of the things that we were talking a little bit about, Jeff, Laura, and I, a couple days ago, was just kind of what we're hearing and what we're noticing, either from the teachers or when we are live with your children, and just thought it would be helpful maybe for me to take a moment and share a little bit about some reoccurring themes, let's go with. I've had the opportunity to connect with many of you as parents over the last couple of weeks, and different people have different comments. From my kids are doing great, they love this, we're getting outside as much as possible, they're engaged in the remote learning, awesome. I'm starting to hear from some parents, though, that may be experiencing a little bit more on the behavioral end, let's say, at home, especially with our little kids. Kids that are expressing more irritability or showing some of their nervousness or stress in terms of defiance or tantruming. So you're not alone if you're seeing more of that in your own children. I'm also hearing, and I've spoken to a couple of parents regarding sleep issues and difficulty with sleep patterns, noting that people are seeing in their children, sometimes kids are having trouble going down, where in the past they had no issue going to bed or staying asleep. They're getting out of bed multiple times and coming in, asking for more reassurance from parents. So I think just helpful to kind of recognize all of these things are things that we would anticipate seeing at different times. You're not in the boat by yourself. A lot of other people are also experiencing some of these things. I wanted to just touch on a little bit of what I've been sharing regarding the sleep issue, because I think that really certainly impacts us as adults. I will fully admit I am not a great sleeper to begin with, and I've had more difficulty staying asleep in the past weeks. So I think just noticing where your kids are with that. Changes in sleep patterns often means that kids need more support and more attention from us and the caregivers in their world. Sounds so easy, but we know when we've got a job and we're grappling with, trying to balance managing a home and handling children and remote learning, that's really hard. So a number of people have said that just even spending just 10, 15 minutes of undivided specific time with your child is really helpful. And then going back to getting on the call that you need to be on, or, okay, at 4 o'clock, when I get off my call, we're going to go outside and we're going to play tag. And it's just going to be 20 minutes of running around and fun. And then you come back and handle what you need to handle. Often alleviates some of the stress that kids are under. Sometimes when kids get up at night and they come in and wake us up, they really are looking for more reassurance. And it's sort of their way of struggling to process some of the stress that we may not even realize that they're under. We may not be realizing that we've had the television on in the other room, or we might be having a conversation in the kitchen. You know, these kids are sponges. They hear and internalize a lot of what we say and what we do and how we react. So just even being mindful of that, I think, is helpful. I was sharing with one parent the other day that we've talked so much in these sessions, and there's so much material out there about the need for routine and structure, to the point where I'm sure you're probably not wanting to hear about it anymore, right? But really important, especially at bedtime, to have some structure. Doesn't mean you can't be flexible, that you can't change it up when needed, but just whether it be a bath, bed, and book, giving them a little control over just even the routine there when possible. What pajamas do you want to wear tonight, right? You choose. You choose if you'd like 10 more minutes in the bath or an extra book tonight. That sense of control for them, really helpful. But being flexible about bedtime too, right? I think so many of us feel like, oh, that's going to be my time for my own parenting downtime after my kids are in bed. But a number of people are saying it's hard because my kids are staying up later. You know, so recognize that that might be okay, that they stay up for an extra, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes, and maybe that means they sleep an extra half an hour, 45 minutes in the morning, and maybe that's your time. So just being flexible about where, you know, the line is for you in terms of bedtime routine. And then the only other thing that I might just add that I think is so important is just that screen time. Screen time and being off screens a good hour before bed is really essential, especially for young children. We know that being on a screen really impacts the secretion of melatonin in the body, which helps us calm down. So if there are ways to, you know, make sure that that screen time is not happening right before bed, awesome. You know, as Laura has spoken about a couple other times in our forums, you know, the screens are wonderful for helping kids be more socially connected, but having some limits around those, especially around bedtime, really important. And the last thing that I just want to keep coming back to is just recognizing that this is all kind of up for grabs, right? There is no perfect in putting our kids to bed. There is no perfect in screen time. The APA actually took away the time limit for screen time for our children, just because I think they recognize that we don't need to be held to such tight standards. So make sure that when your kids are on screens, that the content that they're involved in is important for them and that you're connected to it. But be kind to yourself. If they need a little extra screen time, allow for that. So I just wanted to share a little bit and some different things that I continuously seem to be saying to different parents, so that, you know, we can all sort of field some of these things together. I really appreciated last week when people were vulnerable about asking questions. So jump out there. It helps kind of pull us all together. I actually can't see that chat. Can you see that, Laura or Jeff?
I can read it.
Oh, there.
It says, we've had sleepwalking, and then it's brand new. The parent sleptwalked as a child, but now in the last 2 weeks, their 10-year-old has done it twice for the first time ever. So that's the chat.
The only thing I'm going to share to that is I know your little guy, and you know, I think it's kind of interesting, right? When you've got a big crew, a family of 4, and then all of a sudden somebody's doing something a little differently, right? You know, sleepwalking, and Jeff and Laura chime in for sure, but you know, I think there are moments where kids are looking for reassurance and looking for you. You know, I think it becomes a little bit more challenging when they are, you know, walking downstairs or, you know, taking it up a notch and going outside. Is that something, well, I guess I'd be happy to chat further, or I guess I would just be curious to kind of monitor that going forward.
I wish I could tell you that the sleepwalking was due to, the current situation. There is some evidence that with increased stress in people's lives, you get increased sleepwalking. And so this might be an indication, I couldn't say for sure, but it might be an indication that there is some increased stress going on. Whether that's been externalized, I don't know, but it could certainly be internalized. And so then I think, the nighttime routine really becomes an important piece here, where you're having some conversations, and at 10, it might not be bed, bath, and book in that order, but there might be a bath, chat, bed, right? And so maybe you can use some of the nighttime to have a conversation, a longer conversation, where the two of you are laying in the bed, and it's more of these emotionally connected conversations where there's more of that time to really share with each other how you're feeling. So I would just look to see if there's any more increased stress going on when you get something like that.
So one thing I didn't give a moment to was to share, Jackie or Trudy, do either one of you want to share a little bit about just the remote learning and how the week is gone?
Yeah, happy to. I mean, I feel things seem to be getting more in a flow, both for the teachers and for the parents, in terms of feedback I got last week, both through the survey and one-on-one with parents who tend to reach out a lot, which is a good thing, because they'll share a little more, and I have a little bit more understanding of which room, which child. So it helps drive some of the responses that we have to that. But yes, it seems to be settling down more, and I think the addition of many more connections for our kids has been very beneficial for many kids. I know it's added some stress in other places, because there's a feeling that you have to do everything. And much as we want to remind people, you don't have to do everything. In fact, you don't have to do any of it if today is not the day for you. I think people need to keep hearing that do what you can do and prioritize what you need to prioritize. And then, the rest of it, if you can get there, that's great. But don't beat yourself up if today is not the day you can get through three Zoom sessions and 6 slides, plus the asynchronous PE and the Spanish and all the other things. So, but it does seem to be settling down. And I think it's interesting that there's more cause for, can we have things earlier and sooner so we can plan? So for me, even the fact that people feel they can plan ahead, that's a big step. Because 2 weeks ago, I don't think anyone was in that position that they thought they could plan ahead.
So I'll jump in and just talk about how it's going in the upper elementary, and then I'll answer Joanna's question. So I think it's going well. I've been having lots of one-on-one hot chocolate visits with kids in the upper elementary this week. And what I'm hearing from them is that some of them are finding it a lot of work. So I keep talking to them about, make sure you find the balance and make sure you do as much as you can do. And some of it is we've added a lot more social opportunities. And so then there's always the question about, but don't only choose the social opportunities, make sure you do the learning piece too. So that's been feedback I've received from children. I know they're liking the live connections. They're liking more and more, we're doing small group instruction and the kids are really liking that. I've had comments from parents about the feedback loop. And then I've talked with teachers about that, and they feel like the feedback loop is really great going between the child and the teacher, but then sometimes the parent is feeling like, I'm not in the feedback loop. So we're talking about how to engage people with that. But again, I'm always talking about balance, and it's what's right for your family. And that is very different. We have families still in Montana and in France. And I mean, we have families all over the place. So everybody's engaging in a different way. Joanna asked the question about, has the school thought kind of N-12 about other models for reentry? And just this morning we talked about in our Ed leadership group about, we're kind of in remote learning, so we don't have to talk anymore about planning for remote learning, but like every school in the world right now, we're talking about planning for reentry. So what does that look like? Does it look like summer school? Does it look like every other day kids are engaging with school? Are we doing a multi-shifted school? Are we following what's happening in Denmark? What do we think the governor is going to say? I mean, those conversations are happening, certainly at the educational leadership level, also with the larger admin group. Adam's leading teams of people to think about, you know, obviously we start with health priority as the first piece, and then from there and there and there. So I would anticipate, Joanna, to answer your question, that you'll hear more about this in the coming weeks. It's hard to plan right now without clear guidelines yet from the government, but certainly we're looking at what are 3 or 4 or 5 models that we might lean into depending what the government says. So we're talking about it, and I don't have a clear answer for you just yet. What else might you be wondering?
I'll actually follow up if you don't mind. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we're finding that, you know, it obviously strains our relationship with our child to now become, you know, not just parent, but teacher. And, you know, normally that's handled by the teachers, and that's a better model for many reasons. So we're just sort of curious, you know, if this continues, and we have a child in first grade, would this move more towards like teaching by Zoom, so that, you know, the parent sitting there going through this presentation and having to play each video and, you know, do each assignment with the child, you know, will it ever shift to there's kind of a Zoom class and the lesson is taught over Zoom as it would be in a more, you know, normal school environment?
Hi. Yeah, hi, nice to hear from you. Yeah, I mean, we're continually looking at shifting what we do and how we do. I don't at this point believe we'll ever shift with the little ones to being fully teaching live. With the younger kids, that would be very, very difficult. And there are some children who can sit there in front of their computer in a live session, and there's plenty of others who won't stay there unless their parent is with them. So again, you still need that parent to be one-on-one. We're finding that from what we're doing and what we're hearing in feedback and what we're hearing from other schools around the world, that balance between the two is really the best model for the younger ones. But we are looking constantly about how we can improve, and of course, as this goes on, and whether we stop and then have to restart again later on, who knows. You know, it's not necessarily that we'll restart in exactly the same way.
Along those same lines, there was a question that came to me, and it says, I'm worried about the cumulative effect of the prolonged screen time. In the public system, the schools had Flex Fridays, which allowed for more flexible catch-up. And I wonder if GCDS could implement some kind of forgiveness day, since we are headed into all 5-day distance learning weeks till the end of May.
So I think that's a really interesting idea, and certainly something worth looking at as far as a model moving forward. I know, and actually Trudy and I talked about this, of another school that has Wednesday as an off day. It's like a decompressed day, and kids can catch up on work, you know, or just have a day off, and then the teachers use that time to build a lot of their asynchronous lessons and kind of make a more robust program. That would certainly be worth us having more conversations about. I think it might also, in some ways, create some stress for families where they have 2 working parents and now their children have no school on that day, essentially, no live connections with teachers. But it's just certainly a model we, you know, we will and probably should talk about as more and more schools are instituting this. So thank you for bringing that up.
So one of the things I have been hearing a lot lately is more from parents than from students. And I've been hearing a lot from parents who are stressed and anxious, and whether that's they themselves are trying to be the teacher, or they're trying to structure their time for their children at home, or somebody that they know is sick. And so I'm getting a lot of phone calls and emails about how do I handle my own anxiety and my own stress over what's going on, and would love to put that out to this group to see how, A, if this group is experiencing it, and B, if you are, how are you handling it? Only because hearing it from the rest of you might be really helpful for the rest of our group to hear how you all are trying to handle this in maybe your own interesting but creative ways. While you are all thinking of that, I will read the next chat that just came in. It says, I am torn as I think the online class time is very engaging and I see that my kid loves it. And we know it is only short term, but there is so much pushback against screen time. FYI, I did buy blue light glasses for my kids and 2 of 3 say they help. I will tell you that, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I mean, I am the first person to talk against screen time, as you guys know. And for me, this is like a moment in time, right? We're not having any conversations about shifting permanently to this model. And I think it's like anything. And, I've been joking with my family that in the time of pandemic, we all need to put on our skinny jeans once a week to make sure they still fit, and I'm being very forgiving with myself that I'm eating my way through pans and pans of brownies. And I'm just being okay with that. And that's how I'm managing my stress. So I'm choosing with the screen time to be like, it's like the brownies. So in this moment in time, it's okay, as long as the skinny jeans still fit. So as long as the bulk of my life is still okay, I can be flexible there, because I think if we're not flexible with things like the screen time, that's where we get stressed, because we're holding ourselves to an accountability measure that we can't maintain. Like, it's just not feasible to reconcile with that. So I'm just letting that go and telling myself it's for a short moment in time. And when things get normal, I will throw away the baking pans and we will stop using as much screen time. So I'm giving myself permission like that. So I hear that comment for sure. On the blue glasses, that's an interesting comment. I didn't see who wrote it. Oh, it was. So Mindy had mentioned to me before about these blue glasses for screen time because one of her children was getting headaches. My daughter was studying for her university exams and ordered them. And for her, they made a big difference. Charlie tried them, didn't make a big difference. But it would be interesting for you if you have a child who is getting headaches or things like that. It does seem like for some people, these glasses make a difference to just the physical reaction to being in front of the screen. I think we ordered ours from Amazon and they were $15 or something, but if someone has a less expensive link or something, feel free to put it in the chat. And if you see my skinny jeans, please don't mention that they look a little tight.
we won't mention it. On the blue glasses, I spend a lot of time with ophthalmologists, and I was with a neuro ophthalmologist at the beginning of this week and asked that question, and they said, you know what, again, like you say, there's a lot of people that say they help, and there's a lot of people that say there's nothing. There is no research to say that they definitively help, but there are a lot of people that say that they can be useful to them. So yeah, their advice for me was, if you want to, try it, and if it helps, that's great. We can't tell you that it's necessarily going to or that it's not going to. So it's something worth looking at if you feel that that might help.
No, I agree with the blue glasses. I don't agree, Jackie, with you throwing away the brownie pans. So let's talk about that before you throw them away. The blue glasses, I'm talking with high school kids about them, and the high school kids are trying them too, because a lot of them are reporting so many hours and headaches from being on screen so much, from all of their academic work to their social interaction is all on screen. So some of them are trying, and I'm getting mixed results. Some of them like them. Some of them have said they've done nothing for them. But I think they're worth a try for $20 a pop. Seems to be a pretty decent investment. I'd love to read this chat here. in regard to my question that I put out, and the parent wrote, increased mindfulness exercises have helped me a great deal. I have also, sorry, the chat moved on me. Hold on. Let's see. Sorry. Stand by. Have helped me a great deal. I have also tried less caffeine. One of my helpful parenting moments was admitting to my children that parenting was hard, and right away when I blow, I right away identify it as a moment of impulsivity. It seems to help everyone. And so, I really appreciate this comment, as that's something that we've been talking about. The mindfulness exercises are wonderful. I think I shared last time that we have some up on YouTube if you're interested, parents, to go look at some of them and give them a shot. And the second piece of being a parental role model, huge deal.
And I might just chime in on that, Jeff. So the mindfulness is definitely something that Country Day, as many of you know, is kind of taken on school-wide. And Jeff, Laura, and I have really been trying to bring it more into the fold of everybody's typical days. Now that we're remote learning, I know N-5, pre-K through 5, each grouping has some slides or different activities each week. And again, those don't have to be done when you see them in the slide deck, right? Because they're all kind of organized by the GLF or the head person at that grade level. But if you take a moment and want to go back and search for them and then try them with your kids, perfect opportunity to say, hey, let's try this together, right? What did this teacher share in terms of how to take some good deep breaths? Or what did this teacher share about how we might be able to, work through a difficult moment with our breathing and with some mindfulness? And a perfect opportunity before bed, right? To take a moment and reflect on the day and take some good deep breaths there.
Mm-hmm. I thought a parent Julie made a great comment there, that we're spending a lot of time looking after our families, our spouses and our children and our work colleagues, especially if you're in a senior management role, which I know a lot of our parents are. They're looking after teams. I think there's really nothing wrong, and actually there's everything right with carving time for yourself, even if it is to say, like, I'm going on a walk by myself, I'm going in the bedroom to watch a Netflix show by myself, I'm going to sit on the toilet and lock the door and call my sister. Whatever it is you're going to do, I think it's really important, because the kids will always ask for what they need. They are much better at asking for what they need. And as adults, we feel like our job is to constantly be giving. And so I loved also the comment about when the kids are in the morning meeting in the morning, I try really hard to carve that time and not rush to go do something I have to do, but to use that time as my time. So I would encourage you to, that's a good time for me to bake brownies, but whatever it is for you, that kind of fills your bucket, because otherwise, we talk all the time at school about filling each other's bucket. Your bucket will be empty. You won't have anything to give. So please, I encourage you to find what it is that you need.
And I might just jump in on that, Jackie, and share that I was actually talking to a parent earlier this morning and sharing just about how we are keeping ourselves sane. And I said, I think it was just this morning that there was a great article in the New York Times about just go cry in your car, right? Just lock yourself away from maybe the stressors of your family or what have you, and turn the music up and let it out, right? We all feel a lot better when we do have a little bit of a physical release there.
I know no one has their cameras on, but I know there's a lot of people shaking their heads for that one. Crying. Cry in the car, cry in the shower, cry behind your sunglasses.
Nobody can tell.
So somebody wrote, regarding managing the stress, I'm trying to meditate 10 minutes a day, going outside or sitting outside while looking at nature when kids finish a school job. Then I call my mom or a friend that I know. It would make a difference. I also know myself to do some sort of exercise. I force myself to do some sort of exercise 10 minutes a day during morning meeting of the boys, but not everything is perfect. And I'm snacking a lot. So again, you know, different ways for different people. I'm going to put a little plug in here for mindfulness. And I think people mistake mindfulness for meditation, and they are not the same thing. So meditation is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not meditation. There's a difference. Mindfulness is not a formal practice. Mindfulness we can do right now, sitting here together on this Zoom call. Right now, by taking 2 seconds and feeling your feet on the floor, you've just been mindful in this present moment. Something as simple as that. Your attention went from whatever you were thinking about down to your feet. You can bring that all the way up to your shoulders and ask yourself, do you have tension in your shoulders? And if you do, can you take a breath and relax your shoulders? You've just been mindful in that moment. It's not meditation, it's mindfulness. And mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment, right? So that is the formal definition through like Jon Kabat-Zinn and those people, but it's paying attention on purpose. And when you go outside for a nature walk, really paying attention to nature is mindfulness. Locking yourself in the bathroom and calling your sister or a friend can be very mindful, but really paying attention to it. And what it prevents is it doesn't let your mind run to the future or get pulled into the past, right? And when our minds run into the future or get pulled into the past, that's where we have anxiety and that's where we have depression. That's where those live. So the more we can be mindful and stay present, super important for us to stay healthy from a psychological perspective. So I'm a big fan, as you all know, and maybe somewhat nerdy with it, but truly believe super important for us to clear our heads from this stuff. That was Julie's comment. And yeah, I agree. We have to be able to take care of ourselves. Did I miss a timer comment here?
It was just the whole idea that when you're on screens a lot, and it's very easy to jump from like a Zoom call to a Zoom call to a Zoom call to a Zoom call to just like pause and disconnect your eyes. Even like you can take your video off and be listening and part of the conversation while at the same time looking out the window, you know, at a flowering tree or something like that, that you don't have to always have your eyes on the screen.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Sorry that I missed that. And then
there's one parent there that says, I replaced my fourth grader son's chair with a yoga ball, and it was a great change up for him. He got so much happier bouncing, and I can just have a picture of that being the case. Thanks for sharing. What a great opportunity to give him a little movement and get some of those wiggles out.
I think another idea for that is the standing desk idea. Like if you have a dresser and you know your child can work at the table for a bit, they can work at the dresser. I take a lot of Zoom calls standing up now. So just because sitting all the time is not what the children do during their school day. So, you know, you can set up, if you're able to set up the stationary bike while they're like watching asynchronous videos, that's Miss Davis's favorite. I see right now she's not bicycling. You'd see her moving significantly more. She's obviously sitting, but she's getting her workout while we're in meetings. So I think changing up their work environment is great. For if they're reading, like let's get them outside reading under a tree, if that's an option for you. I'm also very aware that we have families who do not have huge spacious yards, and that's not as easy to find those opportunities. But for things that they don't have to be in a regular seated desk situation, change it up as much as you can.
And I'll just share, kind of going back to the concerns around sleep. I think the more the kids and ourselves included, can get outside during the day, the more activity they have. Many of these kids have been used to be doing different afters or different sports, and some a couple different activities after school, and they were pretty tired around, you know, a typical bedtime. Maybe not the case right now. So how can we try and insert more physical activity into their days? How can we get outside and go play tag or flashlight tag, depending on the age? Or you know, how many times around the house can we have them do laps? So the more physical fatigue they feel, the better off their sleep patterns will be. Anything else that you all are seeing, or questions that you have? We certainly don't need to you know, keep everybody on, but I know last week there were so many valuable questions and comments there.
I take the silence to mean that everyone is being very mindful and managing their social emotional health incredibly well, which is just great. So I also think people have started to reach out more individually, which is great. And I hope that you continue to lean on the people that we have in place to support your families. And we are always there to answer any questions and partner with you in meeting your children's needs. So don't feel this is the only venue you have. And for some of you, this is much too open of a venue to talk about some of the issues that you're facing. So please reach out to any of us, and we'll make sure that you you are connected to the right person. Okay.
That sounds good. All right, everybody. Well, thank you. And we will see you again this time next week.
Bye. Stay well.
Bye.